So last week we talked about the demos that Dean could have done, but hasn't, because we are talking on other topics. Branding. Oh yeah, because we talked about how we suggest people to use the orchard term when they do custom websites. The orchardcms.net website has been renamed to orchardskills.com, which is much better. And the wording is also clear about what's the goal of this site. So congrats, I like it. We talked about this Stack Exchange room that you have all joined. 28 followers. I swear if I log in, I think I can use Google. But I can't. So I need to find my actual account for Stack Exchange. But just a reminder, there is room made by the user Hank, whose actual name is Tyson. Or maybe the opposite, I don't know. And custom questions. So please file questions and register to the room if you want it to be an official Stack Exchange room for Orchard Core. Activity is growing, so that's good. We need more followers. 28,000 would be much better. What am I missing? Chat. So Tyson Henry Hank. Give me. I have to note it somewhere to not forget. Yeah, it says the guy whose name we can't pronounce. Only Sipke can pronounce your name, Mathis. So whatever. At least we know his name. So I was saying last week we did that. This week we'll do the status. We'll have. Do we have demos today? Who has demos? Dean, how many thousands of demos do you have?
I could probably find a couple of demos if we get stuck.
A couple of demos. Who else? Nobody else?
Yeah, read chat.
The name there. Demos. I will see if I did anything. I don't think so, but maybe some topics, nice topics. Anyone has topics? I think Sotiris mentioned my name on Gitter, saying maybe we should talk about it. What was it? Nothing. If you have other topics, then nothing.
Hello, Seb. Hi, Sotiris here. Okay, I would like to talk about JS and CSS files. If somehow we can avoid bundling them in the theme.
Badly naming.
Old school way.
We'll see. Okay.
Did you say bundling?
Yeah. Bundling. We'll see. Okay, topics. Yeah. That's one topic.
Just if it's something interesting that we want to discuss.
You don't get it, Sipke either. That's fine. We'll get it. Okay, let's start with the status as usual. I'm sure it will ask me to update. No, no update today. Orchard 1, there has been some changes. I saw some CI fading, so must mean some changes. We have one change, fix. Oh yeah, we merged this PR last week. Manage pagination blog post archive, so a new feature on dev branch because it was breaking an interface. Well, breaking change on the interface of the blogging service to support a pager in the archive page. So now when you look at the archive, if you have so much data that it doesn't fit an archive page, you have paging. And that's it, and updating the view to display a pager on the archive page and the controller. So good, this was done last month, updating to 461.net on dev branch also. Then Orchard Core, is it up to date? Looks like it's up to date. And I'm just showing the dev branch, that's why it looks like it's a few changes only. But if I remove this filter, it's like a lot of changes, so much activity. Going back on the dev branch, updating Fluid because there was a bug, and I think there is one more related to that. A bug, well, something. The issue with that is fixed in this Fluid change is that if you try to access if you try to access a property of an index, a Lucene index, from a liquid template, because a Lucene query can return either a content item or a tabular data, an unformatted JSON object. You have a choice to either return the content item related to the index row or to get the data as is from the table. If you get the data as is without the content item, you want to access every field of the document. So the field names are something like content item dot content part dot or comment part dot author or something like that, or dot display text. So there are dots in the names. So from liquid, you will type something like item, and in square bracket, you will do content item dot something dot something. But in Fluid, it will try to access the property content item of the object you use the index on by default, and that was failing the indexer that contains dots inside. So Fluid now supports that. We'll look for a property that is named with the dot, and if it doesn't find one, then it will fall back to trying to get each dotted element as a different segment. Headless recipe was merged, so a reminder is that a new recipe from the setup screen, so you can set up a headless site which consists of CMS modules and GraphQL and OpenID. Okay, so if you want to build a headless site, that's what you want, headless recipe. By the past, we were suggesting users to do an empty site and then to enable OpenID or not, but now it's like an empty site, but you have OpenID enabled by default.
What is an empty site?
It's a recipe.
No content, but does it have also?
CMS.
It also doesn't have a front-end theme.
So it doesn't have a front-end theme by default. It doesn't have any content by default. It has the CMS modules enabled. That's it. So the idea is that you can create content and content types, but you build your theme from scratch. There is no theme defined by default, like the blog theme or agency theme or whatever on the front end. So
right. So the front end application would be potentially be a separate application.
No, that's not the goal. The goal is really you start from empty. You have no theme and no content. If you start from the blog, you will have a blog and a blog post and content types and a theme. If you start from the agency, you will have a homepage with services, commerce, and everything, and a theme. But the empty is like no content. Don't pollute my site with content I don't want. Don't select a theme I don't want. You can select the other themes if you want, if you enable them. They are still there, but they are not enabled or selected by default. So when you start this recipe, you just get a 404 on the homepage because there is no content. If you go to admin, then you can create a homepage then you can select another theme or build your own from the admin templates or the templates module. But yeah. If people want to start from scratch and not from a blog or an agency or anything, this is the empty recipe. Headless is almost the same, but it enables more modules to do headless things. And also, I think there is a feature that will redirect you to the admin if you go on a page on the front end. Good, Sipka?
Makes sense. Yeah, very nice.
Din for that. Thanks, Din, for that. So, yep, Din does all the things these days. Fixed document, recipe is not found bug. Recipe is not, yes, so it took me some time to merge it because I don't like the change. It's a good change, but I was torn. So the idea is that there is no good solution to this issue. So I took it. It's the best solution. So the idea is that we have a guide, the decoupled CMS guide, the best guide, right? So this guide is about creating a decoupled CMS. And it tells you to use the cms.core.target in a new project, because this one won't contain the themes and what else? What else is it? I think just the themes. So this one doesn't contain the themes. So when you do a decoupled CMS site, that's what you need. You don't need the themes, the front end, because you want to create your own front end. So I said use the core targets. The issue with this one on the master branch, the one which is on NuGet, is that the setup doesn't contain any recipe in this version, a bug that we fixed. So if you follow the guide and you are using what the guide says to use the NuGet package, then, well, it tells you how to use the myget packages, but by default it uses the NuGet packages. If you follow that, you arrive on the setup screen and there are no recipes, so you don't know what to do. So a mitigation is to remove the .core and to use a CMS target, which contains all the themes also, and the blog recipe and the agency recipe and everything, but not the empty recipe or the headless recipe. Well, the empty recipe, that's what you want actually. So by doing that, then you see a page with all the recipe that you might not want, and also it will enable some modules that you might not want, and reference some things that you might not want to deploy also. But at least you are not blocked from the guide anymore. So it's not the perfect solution, but either we release a new version because of that on NuGet, or we do that in the meantime. So I think I also added, yeah, I did add a comment here. If you are using the nightly builds of Orchard Core, myget feed, then you should use the package .core targets instead. Okay. So the goal is that when we ship the new version of NuGet, the V1, then we also change this guide to revert to the core target because it's a better option in this case. You won't reference modules that you don't want for a decoupled CMS, that you don't need, not that you don't want. You don't need, and hopefully you don't want. Okay, add comma at the end of recipe step. Boom, because you always need a comma at the end of a recipe. I have no idea why we added a comma at the end of the recipe.
Is that valid JSON?
I have no idea why I did that. It's just not here. It's always here. I knew we will talk about it and he was too ashamed. Okay, I have no idea. That's weird. maybe because that's just a step among others, and if you forgot the comma at the end to the next one, if you just copy paste blindly, then it won't be a valid JSON document. I don't know, but yeah, that's weird. Let me check the commit. I merged it, so I mean, look. Okay,
He is referencing an issue. Maybe the issue describes it.
Did you see? To avoid confusion when doing copy paste. Yeah, that's it. Maybe someone tried to do that and it didn't work. I don't know. Okay, let me add the comma for you. I don't know. How do you pronounce this name? Another one. Craig? What? Who said that? That is, dude, don't mispronounce names. We don't yours, right? Craig, new contributor, very active also on Gitter. Fixing the README. Yeah, anytime people find issues in the documentation, we try to ask them to fix it themselves, because that let them be familiar with how to create PRs and take responsibility for a thing. We know we could do that, but it's better to tell them to do it. It might sound mean to ask them to do it, because they're like, it's not my job. Yeah, but please, it's for your best interest. So yes, updating the call here in this guide, the create modular application MVC, to reflect the changes in the 3.1. Fixes invalid cookie name due to tenant that could contain weird things, tenant names. So now it's URL encoded. Good job. Fixes previewing, this one also. We talked about it during last triage. The issue is I did the comments because looking at the code, it was not obvious. The issue is that, yes, this is indexing code. Okay, so this is the index. So when you preview a content item, we create a transient content item in memory on the server side, and then we ask it to be rendered, and we send the rendering to the client. That's how the preview works. Every time you do a keystroke, we fake like it's a real content item. We ask the server to create it in memory and to render it in HTML and send us back the HTML. The issue being that when we create it on the server side, it's like a real creation, not in the database, but with all the events, the driver events, and all the system that will intercept like any event for a content item, including indexing. So Lucene will be like, oh, there is a new content item to index, so let's index it, and then it will appear in the index. It was just a preview, so that's bad. So the idea is that we need a way to mark. So there are many ways to fix it. Like we could have a global event saying, oh, the content item we are doing right now, oh, it's a preview. We are in the preview context. So whatever components will do, know that it's a preview. So don't do it if you don't need it for a preview. So that's one way to fix it. But the issue here is that the indexing will have to know that the preview module exists, or use an abstraction from the preview to know, okay, we are previewing something. That's a fine solution. Another solution here is to say, okay, let's use the ID to say it's -1. So it's like a logical value that we set on the ID of a content item to say it's transient. It's not a real content item. So let's ignore it. I'm not a super fan of that thing, but that's another thing, another way we did. Well, we did that in another component. I don't remember where. So
maybe a small improvement will be to do this as an extension method on the content item, maybe called isTransient.
Yes, that will make it official. Maybe, well, I think it will be better. So there is this one, there was another one, I don't remember. That made me think, but it was for another module. So I like the idea of, yes, the recipes. So when we set up a site, your recipe might contain lots of content items, and the recipe will create them one by one and trigger the events one by one. And the indexing will get a call to index the content item one by one, which is super not optimal. It's like the selected plus one issue. So we'll do open stores close index every time for a content item during a recipe if it contains lots of content, okay? Like transfer from one server to the other or migration from an old orchard to a new orchard, you will use a recipe. So in the same context, it's different. So -1 is bad here because that won't solve the issue because the content items are not transient. They are, yes, they are in a recipe. They have to be indexed at some point, but at the end of the recipe. So I think we should still expose some services or some flags from features like preview, like recipe execution, so that we can resolve the services and say, oh, is a recipe running? Or yeah, something like that. Or is preview running? And then in this case, forget about indexing the content items if they are in a recipe. Or maybe make it a flag, make it service, like make a recipe step so that we could say disable indexation. And then at the end of the recipe, say re-enable indexation and index now. So we can then update the index once. So I think that would be a better solution than just using things like -1. But this fixes an issue locally, and that will unblock people. As long I think I tracked that in a new issue, so we can do that. I think I created the issue. Someone will remind me. Antoine, we talked about that on Thursday, and I think I asked someone, or maybe I did it I created the issue to explain that, and we need some services like this to be able to disable things that would be unoptimal if they were done one by one. So yeah, and also create a step in the recipe.
So you might want to make an indexing scope and at the end say flush, and then it will index everything or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, but
yeah,
it's better if it's an actual service to say disable automatic indexing. It's just a flag in the database.
Yeah, but you should have something like indexing scope that when you are making content items, you say just, okay, persist whenever, because an index whenever, because we're doing single mutations. But if you want like wait for the recipe to finish and then index everything that's captured, so you need some kind of scope that you can signal.
We don't need that.
Okay.
We don't need that because the indexing itself knows what was the last content item to be indexed, and everything it needs to index since then. It has that internally because it stores that. It stores what was the last content item it indexed. So what we can just do is say do nothing, and then we say when we say now you can update, it will know all the things that changed between the previous indexation and the new one. It's like the CQRS, let's see, the command pattern, the thing, okay? Command request pattern, yes.
But so if you already have that, then you can introduce throttling behavior. That's just saying, okay, yes. Then you say something in this service like, okay, let's wait for it to be quiet before we start indexing.
Mm-hmm. But
you could also do that.
But the indexation has two pieces of code that will do the indexation. There is one that does what you said, which is based on background tasks, and every minute or whatever you want, it will check for what has to be indexed for the past minute. Okay, this is the first mode. And the second one is that every new content item that is currently being edited will also be indexed. Like, so the idea is that when you say save or publish in a content item, we also trigger the indexation of this item. That's the second piece of the thing. And that's why I want to introduce a service that will disable either of those, or at least the one that is live. So you can say, you can pause this behavior and then reactivate it after, because you know you will process a lot of content items. And it's very rare that you do that, okay? Just for migrations, just for recipes, when you deploy something. So why make it more clever than just, okay, let's disable the automatic indexing when we know we don't need it, and make it also available by code so that when you do something that you know should not be indexed, you can disable it. So recipes will be good for that. Because if you start making it clever, like oh, we haven't detected a change in the content item for the last 10 seconds, so let's do an update now. It can just fail. I think we should make it just simple. Anyone can still make a module like that, but it scares me. Because maybe you actually want the content item to be available when you click publish, and not have a process that will try to auto-detect, and most of the time it will never detect anything. So because there is nothing to detect. That's but good thinking. So this fixes the issue, not the final fix, I think. And it's super interesting things to solve. Like that's why we do this job. So much fun. So this fix from Jeff, fixing authentication on GraphQL middleware. Apparently it was broken, so he fixed it. We lost the context.user property, so it will never be allowed to do anything with the API controller. So that's fixed. And when you talk about GraphQL, Carl is not far away. There was another bug that was reported. This one, the fact that Carl fixed it makes me sad because the user shared the stack trace. So I asked the user, can you fix it? The stack trace is obvious to what is the null ref to check. And Carl fixed it before. The other one could fix it. Too fast, Carl. So here's just that the markdown can be null, apparently. So we should not process it. We should just return null. In this case, he returns the same value. I'm like, fine. And this one is removed, I assume, because of genericity that can find what type it is, because it's a string that is returned. Because of that. That's it for the dev branch. Comments, questions? And lots of branches people are working on, at least in the main repository, plus their own forks and changes they are about to PR. Okay, then what did I miss here? Blank. Maybe, yes, maybe that's the name. Blank site, not empty site. Confused now. Good. What were we saying? What module is the recipe using? No module. I don't understand the question. Demos. Dean, what do you want to show?
Hello. I could probably show what we were going to do. Sitemaps, I think I have to go through, and I've sortable lists as well was something we worked on.
Old stuff, just old stuff.
Just old stuff, nothing new.
Yeah, good, but that's good.
Well, we'll get rid of the old stuff and then we can have some new stuff.
The goal is to flash these old stuff. And,
yeah.
And you can share anytime you want because apparently everyone has permission to share.
Okay, is that
This is something we haven't tried so far.
Let me know when that comes through.
I can see, good. I don't know if everyone can see. On Skype I could.
I can see.
And it's fast.
Very.
That's good. Everyone can see?
Who cannot see? Nobody, so you're good.
Okay, so this is quite an old PR, but Jasmine did a little bit of work on it over the Christmas period. So it adds sorting and reordering to the list part. So I'll show you the content definition for the blog post first. So see, we have a blog post, and what we actually need to look at is the blog. which has the ListPart on it. And on here we have a setting called enable ordering, which if you enable it and then click on the blog, will give the ability just to move things up and down and reorder everything. So that was set an ordered property on the, there was a property there already, but we're only able to set it through recipes. And then when we actually view the blog, we'll see number 18 first. Number 17, 16, and so on and so forth. So reasonably simple PR actually, and just enables you to use lists in a slightly different way if you need to actually maintain a different order to the default, which would be the created date, I believe.
There is no simple PR.
No simple PRs, no.
So for instance, I will ask the hard question.
Yeah.
There is no answer to this question. If I have a draft and a published version of a blog post, what do you move?
It depends how you want your ordering to work.
So there is no answer to that.
Yeah, there is no easy answer to some of these questions, and the same applies with localization.
But right now, what will happen? I mean, well, okay. So if you publish the draft, then it will be in the same position. It's not about drafting. It's whatever content item you are displaying, it will be in the order of the thing. Where is the state stored then?
The state is stored on the container part. Do we still call it a container part?
Something like this, but the part is on the blog post, okay? Like say...
It's the one that gets...
But there are two versions of the document, so I'm wondering where you store them. That's the...
Yeah, on the contained part. So there's two versions of the document. When it gets published as draft, it will go in. When you publish a new one or create a new one, it will go in at the end. So technically, it is possible to have items that are not necessarily in sync.
Take 18, okay, and create a draft. Okay, move 18. Okay, go on the front end. So you move the published version.
So
now go back.
Version. Yeah.
Now go back, and then publish a draft. Now it's second. It's not even first.
And this is the problem with some of these things.
There is no simple PR. And meaning we don't even know what we should expect from it. Maybe we could expect that while I move the 18, so even if the draft and the content published are not depending on the draft and the publish, so it should have stayed fifth, even if I publish a draft. What I mean is that when you change it, when you change the position, you are changing whatever the latest version is. You should have changed the latest, the published, or the latest. Meaning if there is no published, take the latest. But if there is a published, take the published.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
But no, because here
Here you've changed the order in two different ways that are unexpected.
That's the issue. Or maybe we need to check to take always the latest. And this way, maybe that's it. Maybe you always need to take the latest. To change the latest, so that when you publish, it won't lose its state. But then if you discard the draft, then you are gone with all published. That's I don't know how to solve it. Well, maybe that's why we didn't do the order in the first place. It was too complex. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was something we used to have in Orchard 1, which I missed, so I wrote it. And I don't think we handle it any differently there, but I would have to go back and have a look at the code again.
I don't disagree with the usefulness of ordering lists. For blog posts, it doesn't make sense, for sure, because we usually want to see blog posts by date, but some lists will have to be ordered. So, well, I assume that's fine, because there is, until someone finds a good solution to that. Bertrand.
Yeah, I mean, there's other options like putting the order last when you create a draft, for example, always making it the last item. But then you lose it in the list when you've got a big list that's paged. So you need it to be the first item, but then you need to reorder them all. So I did this in a way that it has to retrieve as few items when you insert a new one as possible, so that it's not super heavy on the SQL queries.
There, do we have a versionless kind of data in our trend? Is it like localization? Maybe that's the way to do it. Yes, that's it. I know. Boom, fixed it.
Excellent. Tell me.
You just have to update the latest and the published version, and done.
That actually makes sense. Yeah. So then you just, what you're seeing on the screen is what you're going to get, no matter what.
This way, it's not worse than having an how do you say that? An order that you can't know what it will be like. You remove the draft and boom, it went away. I'm like, why? So I think it's better, at least it's a better solution to just update latest and publish, so that you are sure that when you move something, well, you moved all the versions the same way we fixed the localization discrepancies between two versions. We sync them. So here, when you want some data that is across versions, you just copy the same data on all versions, and that works. So yes, if you could, does it sound good? Just to update latest and published and then done?
Yeah, it makes sense, because then it's consistent where you see it. And when you publish it, it's not going to change. It's just where it is in the order. Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah, do that. Done.
Okay, first demo. Thanks.
Cool. Okay, next demo.
So we agree that once you have done that, you can merge your branch.
Okay.
Don't wait for me.
I will sort that out.
You might have to wait a year, 1 more year.
Make sure this is right. So I just have to restart because that was on. That's so old. It was on a different repository. And the next one to run through is hopefully a final run through of sitemaps. So we've seen this a few times before, and I've just changed the UI to kind of suit what we agreed on last time. But the idea is to be able to provide sitemaps to your site, which will provide an index to Google when you're doing your SEO stuff.
After your demo, I read an article about sitemaps, and there are some features, super weird features. I don't remember which ones. In sitemaps, I had no idea existed. What was it? Something you didn't manage in your demo.
So I haven't done images yet, and there's a reason for that.
No, not images. I said you didn't manage it. What I hope I will be able to find it.
I did localized extensions.
Localization, that's it, thank you. You can define the language on the sitemap entry of the item, so that Google will know when indexing a content for which language it has to index it. So it's more than what you get from the. Yes, you can relate. Yes, that's it. I think you can relate content items, exactly. So when you will be in a content item, you could, well, on a page, you could say this is the French version of this other page, or there was something like that. I think I found an issue, or I commented on that on Gitter. I don't know where, but I put some notes somewhere.
We should turn it on then and see what it looks like.
Dude, you have a feature called localized content item sitemaps?
I do have a feature called localized content item sitemaps. And if we're very lucky, it might even work.
There is no simple PR.
No, this is not a simple PR. It's been somewhat complicated. No, it didn't work. I need to go on and publish something. That's why.
But this screen, I like it. It looks so simple.
It's the Maori one.
Okay, so
let's publish that.
Theories just shared a screen with maybe what Bertrand is looking for. No, why did you share that, Theories? To show all the modules you have? Oh, custom, I think. Oh, boy, I don't think.
Yeah, it's about it's about ordering the same posts on different contexts.
Yeah, I was mentioning that I made a module like that for child one, and I was trying to find it so that I can share how I solved that same problem a while ago. Maybe if that gives ideas, but yeah.
Interesting. And Sotiris built also very big sites. And in the screen I'm seeing from Sotiris, you are
he's using my module there.
So you are ordering even blog posts in a specific order. That's interesting. But that kind of makes sense. But I assume it's not the most common usage of ordering posts.
I built that feature for commerce, well, at the time for commerce, but it's more generic. It can do anything, but the application that I had in mind was commerce, because in a commerce site usually you want to present your products in a specific order, and in some cases you even need different orders depending on the category you're displaying or whatever. So yeah.
Okay. So right now in Orchard Core, if we didn't have any module, I would do a custom query. And plug any custom order. How would it help? What module will help?
Yeah, so just if I remember correctly, it was actually working with queries, and you could pin some items on top of that query, stuff like that. So it was not exactly ordering. It was both more and less than that, but it's an interesting comparison to make, I believe.
I see. So we could
get some inspiration, maybe.
Yeah, we could do the same thing by adding a custom field called sticky or something like that, a boolean on content items, and then be able to stick them. And then when we render a view using a query, so because I assume you extended projections maybe, because you could have custom sort.
I really don't remember how I did it at the time, but yeah, it's basically first you order by the pinned items in the order in which you pin them, and then you apply a secondary order which comes from the query. I don't remember exactly, but I'll find the code and I'll send it to Gitter if I don't find it before the. Oh, there it is. Vanderlei custom sort. Excellent. Yeah, I can point to the repo and we can find out.
Yeah, at least I think
it's more complicated than what Dean has demoed. The Dean's feature has the advantage that it's super simple to use.
But I still think we can do that in Orchard Core with a custom query and custom fields very easily by using it either in Lucene or in the SQL queries.
So
yeah,
I would say
I think I know the feature.
Sorry, one thing that was important for me was that you could define actually multiple orders for the same content items depending on the context. I believe that's important.
Yep, and that's okay. I think we can do that. We can even pass parameters in a query. So you could say this mod, this mod, this mod, and based on the mod you pass, could return different orders in the query.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be very useful to apply that kind of thing to taxonomies as well.
Yeah, taxonomy would make more sense. Yeah, you could even imagine like each category will have a different order for the taxonomy. Yeah.
Yeah, and then items and terms inside the
Yeah.
items inside.
That's why I really care about the queries module, because whatever you can imagine, as long as you can do a query to do that, you're not blocked. You're not waiting for a module to add this custom specific option in this case. To do that, you do your query and then you have all the content. And you made exactly that. Look at that. Oh my God, I was looking at this localization stuff.
Yeah, so I made the localization stuff.
That's great.
And so these are localization extensions for Google sitemaps. So Bing will still read this sitemap, but Bing doesn't support the extension. But what you get is the primary content item first, and then the secondaries. Or primary culture of your site first, and then the secondaries. But you have to reference the initial post first, and then specify all of the alternates, including the original post, to specify which language the original post is.
That's good. Very good. Awesome.
So we did that.
Show us the UI.
Yeah, the UI, that's the important thing here.
It's simple. Sitemaps, display sitemaps.
Add a sitemap. So we rebuilt this to look more like the deployment plans.
Building a sitemap. Okay, let's build a sitemap. Let's give it a name. Beautiful.
So we have an option here to disable it if you just want to turn it off for a little while.
What is that?
It's just a enable and disable.
Enable to disable routing. Okay, so you disable a sitemap. Okay.
Yeah, so if you don't want to delete it, but you're still doing some work on it, so it's not quite publishing as such.
It's not like published and draft or something like that. Okay.
Yeah. So then when we go in here, we can now add sitemap sources to it.
Okay.
Of which we've only got the one at the moment, which is about content types mostly. So you can either have all of your content types turning up into the sitemap, or you can just choose to put some content types in the sitemap. And there's one other option here, which isn't going to apply to a lot of people, but you also have the ability to limit the quantity of items because they have a limit of 50,000 URLs.
Correct.
And it's helpful to know that the localization URLs, of which for each content type that was localized there's the main URL, the US URL, and the other language, Maori language, they count as 3 towards that 50,000 mark. So when you're actually doing a localized sitemap, you come down to about 5,000 or 10,000 items that can actually be in it. So in this one, we could say we'll take the top 10,000 or something like that.
Yeah, so that's an easy option to manage paging. If you have lots of millions of content items, you might not want that to manage that this way, but then people can build their own sources. And
exactly.
So if you have bigger issues than that, if you have 1 million content items.
Yeah. And so there is an images extension as well, which is very similar to the language one that we just looked at, where you can specify metadata for the images as well. I haven't built a sitemap source for that because how you would do that is probably custom to how you've done your site and your content types and your alternate text for images. But you can build one to do your images as well without too much difficulty. So we have that, and then if you are doing a lot of sitemaps, I've got 3 of them here at the moment. We also have just a single index where you say sitemap index, where you say which your which sitemaps this one contains. So if we save that, then it's just got the first sitemap, which is just a reference that you can use in your robots text to allow Google to index a lot of sitemaps, or to reference a lot of sitemaps.
So can you show again the menu, because I see sitemaps? How did you go to the sitemap?
Sorry, it's just down.
Sitemaps and sitemap index. Okay.
Sitemaps, sitemap index. So nothing too complicated. This one's a little it's a little unusual because normally you'd click on this and you'd go to a list, for example. But because there is only one of them, because we decided that we'd only have one to make it a little bit less complicated.
I will make a suggestion, and you will tell me. I like to make you suggestions.
Yeah, there's a header.
So, sitemap index. Why not just have sitemaps, and a source will be sitemaps?
So we had done that. We had kind of had something like that originally, where you clicked add sitemap here, and you could choose to add an index or
Yeah, and that's not what I'm saying.
No.
You add sitemap, you call it, you name it sitemap index.xml, and then you say add source, and the sitemap is made of. So what? Show me actually. Maybe I'm wrong. If you show me the sitemap index and a sitemap to see the tagging.
So there's a sitemap index.
I want to see the file.
That's it.
The file.
Oh, the file.
The content.
Where are we?
So this is the index, and it contains site. You see, sitemap index. Okay, sitemap lock. And now go to the sitemap index. Sorry, the sitemap. This other one. Yeah. It contains. Okay, it's not the same file. The same thing. Okay, good.
Different schema.
Thank you.
Yeah, so like I said, the UI is a little unusual because you'd normally come to a list here rather than just a single item, which is why there's a delete button.
That's weird.
Which is just, it's a little weird, so I haven't quite figured out what to do with that.
That's weird. Delete.
So I mean, I can just put a list on that and you can just have one, but it's just, we don't really have anything else like that where there's just one item.
You can just have one sitemap index?
Yeah, that's what you can have multiples, but remember we talked about this and you just wanted to have one, just to keep it simpler. But it is weird. So that was probably the only bit on the UI that I really wanted to kind of cover off and figure out if we could do a little differently.
Yeah, if you want to make a list, I mean, fine by me. I don't see why I would have that. I would have said that just make a page like this if it can be a list of things.
Yeah, I mean, we can make it a list, but it's only ever going to have one item in it.
Why? You just said that we could have multiple indexes, so we can have different names and.
Yeah, no, well, I think last time we went through this, you just wanted to have the one index.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can remember.
No. That's weird.
Yeah, we talked about what the button should show when you click add, because first it was add, but if you can you go to the sitemaps list? Yeah, but you should say, yeah, last time we discussed add sitemap or add sitemap index, and then you clicked add sitemap, and then you got the pop-up, and then there was confusion. Okay, what's the difference? So, but I think it's weird that you click open sitemaps and then it says sitemaps again. I'm like, did I just not click on that? But yeah, you could show them both in one list. But
two lists is fine. You have sitemaps and you have sitemap indexes. I don't see.
Yeah, but for me it's weird that you have sitemaps index. There's a lot of sitemap.
So, oh, I know you are talking about the menu on the left. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a bit. Maybe you could somehow present it in one screen, or would it be too much?
Yeah.
No?
So you're just wanting to do one screen just because the menu on the left is confusing, and I don't like it.
Okay,
Just
sorry.
fix the menu, don't fix the screen. There are two different lists. It's like, no, it's okay.
Well, there are nodes
I
that you host.
Easy enough. We can have multiples, yeah, because it doesn't work right.
Yeah, my comment was just about the fact that there is only one sitemap index, and there could be any. Like there can be any sitemaps, and you build all indexes based on the sitemaps you want, even if the same sitemap is used in two different indexes. That's fine. Well, I'm sure it's just a UI constraint, not.
It's just UI. I mean, I actually left the data behind it capable.
Yeah, so we can change it later. So.
There's no problem.
Then the fact that the menu has sitemaps, there must be a good way to fix it. One way to fix it is not to have the first sitemaps node, just to keep in somewhere sitemaps and sitemap index. You can remove the sitemaps node, and that will be fine. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice if we had on these menus the ability for the top level to actually be a link to something.
What? Call the top level one SEO, and you can have the sitemaps and sitemaps index, and later all the things you want for SEO. And then
Why not just remove the top level one?
Yeah, well, because you will have two items for sitemaps, and then when you want to add metadata and everything, you will want it also in the SEO because people will look at SEO.
Yeah, but call it SEO. That's actually a good idea because we have an SEO PR coming on, because we always have multiple links to stuff. Like indexing has, you know, Lucene and Run. We don't put them on together on a top level as two items. But SEO is good. We can call it that.
Yeah.
Why not?
We just need to change the name of the top level. That's the okay. Good. All good.
Cool. I think there was one other thing I did with this as well, but I probably won't demo it now. But there is a decoupled feature for it as well. If you're using decoupled pages, so you can include your content types in there. But that's all documented, so it's reasonably easy to do.
Awesome. Thank you, Dean.
No problem.
So, and you are building more modules than websites still. So.
Yeah. I could show another Orchard site as well if we've got 5 minutes.
Okay. We'll postpone the other demos. That's fine. These guys are like, they will never be able to show their demo. I'm using this to keep them coming to the meeting. A new website I haven't seen yet. It should not be allowed. You should just tell me first, and then buzzinteractive.co.uk. So I like to hear stories about the sites, how you built it, what modules, what techniques, how many times you sweared.
So that's actually
a quick question. That cookie pop-up, is that going to be a feature for your next PR?
The cookie problem.
The cookie pop-up.
The cookie pop-up. I wasn't planning on it, to be honest. No.
Honestly, I'm kind of, so I used to be ashamed that we didn't have tags with the blog recipe, but you made a tags module, okay? I'm kind of ashamed that we don't have a GDPR module.
Yeah, my point.
Maybe it's next PR.
because you can't build a website today without thinking about it or having something, and that will be so useful because people don't want to have to know everything about that and implement one. If you can say, okay, here is a GDPR module, here are the options you can have, do something, and then people can just theme it if they want, and so that would be awesome, I think. I don't build websites, you know, I just build tools to build websites, but if I had to build a website, I'm like, dude, it's like SSL. You don't build a website without SSL. So same thing for GDPR. I'm not complaining about any, okay, I'm not blaming anyone because I mean, it's kind of sad we don't have it.
Just another feature we need, isn't it?
We don't even have an issue tracking it and finding what people need and what we should have. It's so bad. Okay, let's file it. Antoine, you file an issue and we'll comment on that. I don't know even more about what we need, and I know some things, but yeah, I'm sure you have more experience in it than me. Okay, good. Okay, now Sebastian says that even the cookie pop-up is no longer valid.
No, because there are so many rules around that now, and I lose track of them as well.
See, that's why we need a module.
Yeah, and somebody to understand them and make sure that the rules are right, that we follow the right rules.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because it makes my life building websites.
With common knowledge, with aggregated knowledge, we all know something and that, and one will read a page and the other one will check, do we support that? And then yeah, community work will make it good. So if 10 people looking at it can't find it, can't get it right, I mean, nobody can. So.
Absolutely.
So we need a module. Okay, let's file an issue and comment on what we need. And apparently Sebastian knows more than anyone because he knew that the rules have changed. And so there is, oh, look at that. We have so many experts, web experts, so we should be able to find something. Next priority, make a GDPR module. Awesome. Okay, so you build a site.
Still got to fix the tags mod.
Is it an agency or what? Yes, explain us. What did you do?
Yeah, so this was a site built by the agency that I work with for our agency. It's I have to do some upgrade work on it next week because it's a little old now and hasn't been upgraded to the latest RC1. But it's just a nice little site, and I think it was their first work with Orchard Core. I haven't been in Orchard 1 agency for some time, a number of years.
Decoupled? Not decoupled?
Not decoupled. So traditional content types, a lot of use of the ListPart, which was where our need for that ordering one came in.
Projects is a list, I assume.
Sorry?
Projects is a list?
Yeah, projects is a list. So builds the menu items based off the lists. Also,
okay.
I won't show you team because I've got my picture on there and nobody needs to see that. But it was a really good experience actually. I mean, it's very fast. You know, Orchard Core is incredibly fast. Particularly when comparing it to some of the SQL queries and what have you that we used to make in Orchard 1.
If you compare Orchard Core to Orchard 1, yes, it's fast, like 100 times faster.
It's just blindingly fast.
So yes, it's fast, and there is no caching. Even with caching in Orchard 1, Orchard Core is still 10 times faster. So yes, it's fast.
Yeah, so that's probably been our biggest learning from it, is how much fast you get by doing things.
And if you use the latest dev, it's even faster because every anonymous request here will issue a SQL query. We fixed it last week, remember, or 2 weeks ago. Maybe you missed it, but there is a SQL query every time you hit a page, even just for the anonymous role. And so you have 2 queries instead of 1, which is bad. So we fixed it even faster now. Not decoupled.
Standard content types. The media is currently stored locally. We're looking at moving that to blog storage shortly, and probably I know somebody has some comments about how to store JavaScript files and theme files and stuff in Azure. Probably move some of these ones over to a CDN for that purpose.
Where is it hosted?
On Azure.
Okay, good. So you Azure website, I assume, and SSL certificate. How did you do that?
That's all done with Let's Encrypt.
Okay.
SSL is just Let's Encrypt, and it's a Windows Azure web app. not containerized or anything like that. Just lives on one of the servers with a lot of other sites. What else can I tell you about it? I mean, it's a very simple agency site. We did build up the theme ourselves off a design, so it's not based on like the agency theme or anything like that. But Bootstrap as a basis for it.
Did you use layers, widgets?
Yeah, there are some layers, mostly widgets, quite a lot of bag parts. Most of the content is built up in bag parts.
Did you build a custom controller for the contact page?
No, that currently just got a mail-to link on it. So we're not doing any form stuff with this one yet.
Okay.
Time, basically, more than anything else.
Good.
Yeah, nice to have another little site there.
Awesome, thank you. Good job. So 10 modules, one site. That's the ratio. Modules to site.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you. Sharing back. We are just because you said not to do that, I did it.
Of course you did. Yeah.
It's not for me. I've seen you bypass with Skype. That's just for people. Good team. Good team.
Yeah, great bunch of guys.
I assume it's hosted in UK, right?
Yeah.
Because I see the 500 millisecond lag.
The lag time for you, yeah.
For me, that's it. And yeah, as a reminder, this is also the same thing, Orchard Core, Azure, but we are using the Azure CDN, and it's super fast. So if you go on the page, for me, I'm local, so I'm cheating 29 milliseconds, but you should have the same thing locally, also anywhere, because it's from the CDN. And I didn't have, and it was super easy to set up. So, and the SSL certificate then is from the CDN, and it's free. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm quite a fan of fronting these sites with CDNs. We haven't done it on this one, but yeah, very powerful.
Maybe another option for a module to enable some external CDNs automatically from, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I have some code which does some CDN cache clearing when you publish content items and that kind of thing. I must put it up on GitHub actually.
Okay. So Terry, just 1 second. Can you explain the issue and just to see if we talk about it right now or next week?
We can leave it for next week. It's if it's too late, no worries.
And we are done with all the demos from Dean. I hope so. So I will just write it down so that we don't forget. And boom, this will be the topics. You will have to join. And
yeah, I'll do my best.
A demo about
user account activation and course. I updated course. I updated the UI for course because you said you didn't like it.
Yeah,
you didn't like my HTML.
I was about to say, like Dean, you have so many PRs waiting, and like Dean, I give feedback on the UI. I'm picky.
Yeah, I'm also still waiting for you to feedback on the auto setup, how you like it, but.
Then
yeah, what else do I have? Swagger. I still have Swagger for you. So I have like 4 PRs. So I won't start anything new until you at least merge one.
That's fair.
No, okay.
It's kind of
it's a joke. It's a joke. Like, I'll keep pushing PRs. So
it could be also, because some people I'm sure get pissed off because they're like, somebody. What was the name that people standoffish? This was the first time I learned about the word standoffish.
Mm.
Like I will not take any change from anyone and be like, I'm the boss, I decide. No. And yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I don't like it either, but sometimes I have to.
But who do we have to send tweets to get you to focus more on Orchard Core?
More on Orchard Core?
More.
What's Satya Nadella? That's the.
Yeah, okay. I'll tweet
Well,
him.
honestly, I hope he doesn't know that I work on Orchard Core. He will say, he will be like,
Sebastian, what are you doing? Quit it.
you should
No.
focus on whatever, ASP.NET and whatever.
Performance.
Yeah, we'll see.
No.
Good. Thanks, everyone. See you on Thursday. For those who join us, same room, Teams. I will update the link from the orchardproject.net. And join us on Gitter. Lots of activity on Gitter. I can't even keep up with all the questions and voila. I'm not answering and just looking at what people ask and people answer. So lots of contributors helping everyone. I saw some tweets from I don't remember his name. Some people saying they were super happy with the welcoming on the Gitter forum, that everyone is asking questions and answering, taking time to answer and to help even little details. So thanks everyone for that. So awesome. Good job. Keep it up. See you on Thursday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.